Hey everybody, I'm just doing a quick update today. I had something kind of surprising happen this week. Had some good DVA gaming on the weekend with one of my friends that I game with regularly, and that was on Saturday. And now Sunday, Sunday's typically a family day. I typically don't do any gaming. I used to years ago, but I kind of moved into a habit where I don't do any gaming on Sundays. But I'm working next weekend, and next weekend there is sort of one of these bits trading things at one of the local stores, and I noticed that I was going to be working during it because I kept seeing these advertisements. But then I had my gaming buddy that I game with on Saturday, the DBA, it said, hey, did you know that at the Sentry Box, which is where I sometimes game, if I am going to game at a local club in Calgary, it's usually at the Sentry Box, they said, did you know that there was like this bits trading thing, like, you know, this thing where people bring all their stuff and set up a table and sell their stuff and good deals and things like that. And I said, oh wow, you know, I didn't know that. And I just kind of slipped out of the house for a little bit and went down to it and met him over there. To be honest, I was mostly hoping for a collectible Oldhammer model. I was just thinking that maybe there'll be something that somebody will pull out of their basement, you know, that I wouldn't normally find and get a good deal on it. And it seemed like, you know, a good possibility. So I went there, and I'm there for a few minutes. We went early, so we kind of got first dibs as we went in there for the most part. And my friend comes up to me and he says, I think I see something for us. And immediately, because I'd pulled out my Saga stuff that morning out on the table, and I'm thinking, I have a ton of Musket and Tomahawk stuff to paint, I have a ton of Saga stuff to paint, I have Onyarol stuff I want to paint, and then I'm doing the Oldhammer painting challenge as well in September, and I was thinking the last thing I really want is like an army, you know, like a new project, like a totally new game. And so in some ways, in my mind, like, believe it or not, like, my reaction was fear. Like, not that I have to do anything, but even just the prospect of potentially getting, like, lured into something, like, my first reaction was fear. Now, what you see in front of you is a partially painted Dark Angels with Titan support, Imperial support, Epic Army, and Epic Armageddon, Epic. Now I also have a couple of Imperial planes that are in the dip that I'm stripping, and they're not there. So there's a couple of planes I could add to this as well. There's a Thunderhawk back here that's not on a stand. It needs a little bit of work, but it's pretty close to being ready to go. This was a Forge World Thunderhawk. Okay, now before I talk about the army, I'll just say, some of you remember I wanted to get into Adeptus Titanicus as it just came out, and I didn't. And my reason is to focus on Sharp's practice. About last December, there are a couple people that watch the channel that I've been in touch with that know this already, but around last December, I was really considering doing Epic. I was anticipating Adeptus Titanicus to begin with, kind of into it. I was watching some Guerrilla Miniature Gaming bat reps on Epic 40K, Epic Armageddon in particular, and I really liked what I saw. It looked like such a great game, and I really feel like I missed out, to be honest, on an era of gaming within the 40K universe, like with the specialist games. And so, at the time, I looked into getting it, and as much as I was kind of really into the idea of doing Epic at that point, I saw that there were a lot of plastic little models, and I also saw how expensive it was, like on eBay, they get this stuff. And also the idea of stripping little plastic models and things, and then because I already collect quite a bit, I know I've come to realize that when you start collecting stuff, like you don't get it locally, but you actually get it through eBay or somewhere else, you start spending a lot of your hobby allowance on shipping. Particularly if you can't get it all in one spot, and you're shipping like little bits here, little bits there from all over the place. So I just said I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to wait to see what happens with Adeptus Titanicus. Long story short, you guys probably know the story. I decided not to invest in the Adeptus Titanicus, and I kind of said my reasons for that and just focus on French Indian War. Well, so on Sunday, the thing that was for us, that my friend showed us, is that somebody had pretty much a full Space Marine army and a full Orc army at a really good price, like a price that I couldn't refuse. And I knew I wasn't going to have to ship stuff from all over the place. I was pretty much... this Space Marine army was really in of itself, and then they had an Imperial Guard army as well, and I asked to buy some support elements out of it, because nobody had bought the Imperial Guard army yet, and they sold me some couple Warhound Titans as well as Reaver Titan, and yeah, I just couldn't say no. And so now I'm definitely going to be doing Epic. I have pretty much what I need, and I'm really excited about it. And I didn't even mention that I got an actual... I know that you can get a lot of the rules online, but I got an actual Epic Armageddon book for free with it. And so it was part of the price. It was bundled with it. And so, yeah, so really excited. A lot of it was painted very nicely, like, for 6 mil, like, it's completely fine. Like, these are little Assault Marines, and I've got Terminators. I might throw some little decals that actually fit on the shoulder pads, but, I have to look at it, but they're actually, from an infantry perspective, pretty ready to go. These have, so I've got Assault Marines, Terminators, Tactical Squads, Devastator Squads. I'm kind of new to Epic. I just kind of realized the differences between the Devastator and Tactical just recently. I've got like a bunch of Rhinos, different kinds of Predators, and just a number of different kinds of tanks. I've got Land Raiders. Most of the army is metal, which is awesome, like all these tanks. But then, like the infantry, and then some of these are plastic. I have some command stands up here that are not painted, but these Land Raiders are plastic. Reaver is metal, and I've got 2 Forge World resin Warhounds. I've got a drop ship, like an actual spaceship, essentially that acts as a drop ship. I don't think they use these in Armageddon, but I think you can in other forms of Epic, and some of the later editions of Net Epic. If you use those set of rules, you can use the Knights. And like I said, I got the planes as well, and really cute looking dreadnoughts, for those of you that love dreadnoughts like I do. Really cool dreadnoughts, little dreadnoughts. And so it's kind of cool. I mean, this isn't going to take me much time to paint at all, so it's mainly going to be a gaming thing, which will be great. Like, I'll finish this pretty fast. It's already mostly done. A lot of these were down to bare metal, some were black prime, but I kind of got my first coat of base paint on the tanks. I have to redo the Land Raiders, but I had some assembly to do. Like, I have to do some repair on this Thunderhawk, but I assembled the Reaver and put him on the base, did a little bit of stuff on the base, and primed him up. Reaver's really cool. Who doesn't like Titans in a game like Epic? I mean, you have this huge little thing that's going to come along and stomp on stuff. But it's funny. I didn't really care so much that it was Dark Angels. I never really thought about doing anything for Dark Angels. They were never really a Space Marine army that I gravitated towards. I've never... I have the Dark Vengeance box set for 40k, but I only have the Chaos half. I never had the Dark Angels half. And they're kind of cool. Like, I've read a number of the books that are based on Caliban and, like some of the early Forge World books that have to do with Dark Angels. And for those of you that remember going back, I have a painting on my wall that is from the Black Library framed, that is on Pandorax, which was basically a campaign, defending a world against Horus, that was the Grey Knights and the Dark Angels working together, and that was kind of cool. And you know, so, and I've read the book for it as well. Yeah, I have the painting and read the book, and so it's kind of neat. You know, so I'm gonna, you know, I don't. Most of these are not Dark Angel specific to the extent that the miniatures are not Dark Angels miniatures. They're just Space Marines and Space Marine elites that are painted up like Dark Angels. And even some of the classic Ravenwing stuff, like the bikes and stuff. Like I do have one set of bikes here, but like my air support and my bike and my stuff is not really Dark Angel specific. But I'm going to use them with the Space Marines rules, you know, that come with it. And I might pick up some Dark Angel stuff, possibly. But yeah, this is, I know a number of people, like on the channel, that have talked about Epic over the years, including Rusty, you know, on the Musty Wargamers show. And then Jankmaster, Rob, and like, there are a number of folks that have talked about it. And so yeah, this will be, I guess, one of two things that I'll be doing to scratch my 40K itch. I don't really like to talk negatively about 40K because I do love the universe and I've had a lot of fun playing 40K over the years, but it's just the latest kind of versions just don't really do it for me anymore. I like to play other stuff. I have lots of folks that I watch their channels that are still like, their channels are primarily 40K based, and I still enjoy watching all those. I watch their painting, listen to what they think about the game in its latest iteration, 8th edition. But I'm going to likely be doing a mixture with my old Hammer painting that I do next month of initially in the Emperor's name. So it's a rule set that's sort of like in Her Majesty's name. It came out first, but it was meant to be a skirmish game meant to be used with 40K miniatures. It's like an unofficial rule set. But really what launched in Her Majesty's name as far as the mechanics. So I'm going to use that. Like, so I'm planning on using my Eldar and my Orcs for that. And I'm also planning on pulling out the old Rogue Trader that I have and just messing around with it and having some fun with that. But now, aside from sort of the skirmish, now I can kind of play the complete opposite and play the epic. Like, literally like its name, it's epic scale. Like, huge, massive conflicts. And when a Gorelick Miniature Gaming's videos, he literally says, like, this roll we're doing right now, like this action we're doing is a whole game of 40K happening in one couple of dice rolls. And I thought that was so cool because it just sort of, it's another way to really like look at it. Like you're playing like essentially each sort of, in some ways not even each turn, but each like encounter between different divisions. There's another name for it, I think, formations. In Epic is like a game of 40K in some ways. And that's really cool. I mean, I guess it also depends on how big your game of 40K is, but in some ways you could look at it like that way, so which is kind of neat. And lastly, you know, just to share my excitement a bit about this, because I am getting excited about this. It makes me want to, like, I've been reading, picked up my book of Garrow, which I was just about done, and I've bought another book on, I bought one of the more recent books that have to do with the Thousand Sons and Magnus. That's part of the Horus Heresy, so I just grabbed that to read afterwards. But this reminds me very acutely of Horus Rising and the very beginning of the first book of the whole series, where you have essentially an attack happening on a false emperor's city. So it's basically like a human city, and there's this guy that is pretending to be the Emperor of Mankind, but he's not really the real Emperor. And essentially, the Luna Wolves and the main characters of the whole Horus Heresy are attacking the city to take it and to basically, you know, remove the heretic. And in that, it's like mass battles with like aircraft and like all kinds of Space Marines and troops like attacking like the building, like where the Emperor's at, and all this defenses, and they're talking about all this stuff happening on a massive scale. And because I never played Epic, when I was thinking about it, in my mind, I wasn't thinking of Epic because I had no reference point, but I was just thinking how this is so different, and not in a bad way, but this is like a different image in my head than 40K. Like, this is so different. It's like huge battles, you know. And then later on, as you watch, like, or read the Horus Heresy, they'll talk about, you know, huge drop ships bringing these kinds of titans down, and like they'll describe the kind of force and energy needed to be able to lift something like that off the ground and bring it into space, and like, you know, just the kind of stuff that's happening. And so I'm kind of excited because the history stuff I've got completely set for me. Like, I've got big plans for Black Powder this fall, and I'm kind of finishing. I have a lot of Saga to play, but I'm kind of planning on finishing my Scots Warband and really kind of closing the book a little bit on some of my Dark Age painting for a little bit, like really going from my Dark Ages when I paint my Scots up and just doing Black Powder for a while. But particularly for my painting, like with my Oldhammer and my gaming for both this and Oldhammer, I really feel like I've found something to kind of scratch the itch of 40K that I do often feel. Because, like I used to say for a long time, like my channel was kind of founded pretty much on 40K painting and then Musket and Tomahawks and like French Indian War. So really that French Indian War and 40K were like my two pillars of my channel. And it's really drifted over the years. Like I've always tried to tap regularly into the French Indian War, but I found other things like Dark Ages that I've put it aside for at times. But it's still always been something I always come back to, like faithfully and thinking about. But the 40K has really slid, and I've kind of dabbled in some fantasy, and I am going to continue a little bit because I still have like Dragon Rampant and things that I enjoy with the fantasy miniatures. But this allows me to really scratch that itch and keep immersed into the 40K stuff. So, interested in your thoughts if you play the Epic, and also interested in the Adeptus Titanicus and what people are doing with that. So, alright, take care everybody.